Now, we are talking about security. Security is a shared responsibility. Shared responsibility between the teams that will be playing the matches, Ghana Sports Council, the football administration, and then supporters as well. So I may want to recommend that before matches are played, the various teams will plan the security arrangements for these matches and agree, depending on the expectations of attendance at these matches. We have categorized our teams, and there are matches that we say this is category A. Of course, whenever Kotoko or Haas is playing any match against any other team, the expectation is that there will be more spectators than the other teams, and therefore security arrangements will have to be beefed up. Now, I also think that we have to emphasize on capacity building. We need to train and continue to train our referees. We need to train and continue to train our sports administrators, the leadership, and everybody, so that as the rules of the game change, we would be abreast with them and accept that during football matches, it is the referee and only the referee whose decisions are final. The referee is a human being, is fallible, and may make mistakes. But once he takes a decision, whether it goes in your favor or against you, you have no option but to accept it. And when that happens, that's why we want leaders to take responsibility. You appeal to your team, your players, your supporters, that once the decision has been taken by the referee, unless through an appeal or something, you cannot change that decision. And so we need to do that continuous training and capacity building for the various stakeholders in football administration. Once again, I also want to make a recommendation on the need to have well-resourced medical teams at the various stadiums when we are playing football matches. Depending on the categorization of a particular match, the appropriate well-resourced medical team should be available so that in the event that unfortunate incidents of the type that happened at Insiatre occur, we may have professionals with the appropriate resources to deal with the matter so that we may do our best by way of first aid before we are able to convey the victims or casualties to the appropriate medical facilities. On that note, I wish to say that I highly commend the author of the statement. I know he is a football administrator, and he really knows and understands sports in general. And he would help the various stakeholders in finding solutions to this unfortunate incident and make appropriate recommendations. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank you for the opportunity given to me to make this little contribution towards the unfortunate incident that happened in my region and also happened in the constituency of my sister at the other side. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think that as a parliament, we should at all times condemn all forms of violence at our stadia during football matches. Colleagues have already indicated strongly that these matches are for pleasure, they are for entertainment, and they are to bring us together. They shouldn't end with people losing lives, limb, and property being damaged. That is not the Speaker. We should appreciate that sports, beyond just being entertainment, has become a big economy, a major economy, contributing enormously to in In Ghana here, weekends, when you see the number of people who are trooping home to watch the European League, the Spanish League, and all these foreign leagues, it is amazing. And when you sit with business people and they have conversations about leisure, and the number who fly to Europe, fly to the United Kingdom, just to go and watch a match and come back, are concluded, it will amaze you. And if you see the extent to which the media is developing in those countries, and sports and the coverage of sports has become a major source of revenue for those countries, then you will know that it is not a place where we go and throw stones at each other. It is not a place where we go intending that at the end of the match we will beat the referee. It is not a place where we go planning that when we finish, we will scatter the place if our team do not win. It is a place where, as a district, as a region, you must plan for it, because the people who would travel there, the transport sector will benefit. When they get to the place, those who will be selling food and other items, the women in your district, in your region, will benefit. The hotels who will host them, you will benefit. And so the regional security councils, the municipal and district security councils must accept these as major important events that they must plan for and make sure that no match results in violence in their municipality. And even encourage those matches to be taking place so you can earn more, and then also you can entertain your people and then keep them happy. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, if you observed earlier on, I was sitting with the Minister for Sports. He was hoping to be here to comment on this statement because I had given him some indication, but he has to run back to his ministry to defend his budget because the Minister for Finance is putting together his budget. And so in our discussions, he's indicated that as part of the 24-hour economy strategy, sports is going to be a major cornerstone as part of the 24-hour economy. Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Youth, the Minister for Sports has a major agenda to revive sports, to revive football from the district to the regional level. Speaker, the Minister is with the media to see how we can project sports. Indeed, he has revealed to me that Mr. Speaker, when the local leagues are covered by super sports, what it means is that people sitting in South Africa can see our boys playing, our boys and girls playing, and from South Africa, they can begin to identify and come and scout for those people. So the footballers themselves, when they see that their tournaments are covered on super sports, they know that a platform, a global platform is being provided them to showcase their skills so that scouts all over the world can view and then come and try and then recruit them to their various countries. And also that he is going to invest and get support and sponsorship for the various teams in the regions so they can have good football, good coaches, they can have support to be able to compete effectively, train and recruit and retain very good footballers, buy very good players, and then also up the quality of our local league so that people will really like to go and watch our leagues instead of wanting to sit at home and watch the European leagues. Mr. Speaker, when this happens, I believe that our people will begin to appreciate the fact that football is a big thing. It's not a place where you go and throw stones at the end of the match, because when you do that, you are destroying the economy of your district, your municipality, and ultimately your region. The regional ministers and municipal chief executives will begin to see that football is a major enabler of their economies, and therefore they must pay attention, and the entire governance framework within the district, municipality, and the region will be geared towards making sure that every weekend, any match that is being played ends up successfully and it doesn't end up with the image of the municipality or district being dented. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by saying that with the 24-hour economy strategy, football is going to be a major enabler of the 24-hour economy. And very soon we will see it. Very soon, our local league will replace the European leagues. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Let me add my voice by commending the individuals who are running football teams. Honourable members, football itself should be a game of peace. So a situation where football is characterized by violence is an idea which is not welcome. We have to do everything possible to avoid it. I would direct that the statement be transmitted to the Minister responsible for sports and recreation. Thank you. Honourable members, there are two statements on local governance. Honourable Faustina Elikplim Akurugu on deepening local governance in Ghana, addressing the challenges of unit committee members. Honourable members, the other one is local level stakeholder participation in local governance. A statement by Honourable Dominic Napari, MP, Senate East Constituency. Honourable members, I crave your indulgence to have these two statements taken jointly. I will then give the floor to Honourable Faustina Elikplim Akurugu. Honourable, you have the floor. Second Deputy Speaker should take the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank you for the opportunity to address this August House on the critical role of local governance in Ghana's democratic development, particularly addressing the challenges faced by unit committee members in our various local government units. Mr. Speaker, local governance continues to form the bedrock of Ghana's participatory democracy, ensuring that governance is brought closer to the people. Ghana's decentralization system, established under the Chapter 20 of the 1992 Constitution and the Local Governance Act 2016, Act 936, provides the framework for grassroots governance with district assemblies as the highest political and administrative authorities at the local government level. The unit committee, as the lowest structure of the local government, is essential in engaging communities, mobilizing citizens for development, and implementing policies at the grassroots level. However, Right Honourable Speaker, despite the importance placed on the unit committee, it continues to face challenges that hinder their work. A couple of days ago, I met with the representatives of Unit Committee, Members Association of Ghana. The membership, according to them, is 43,500. They asked me to present these challenges on the floor of this August House. In a petition presented to me, they requested an urgent intervention in addressing the following issues. 1, lack of empowerment. Mr. Speaker, the unit committee members feel disempowered due to insufficient authorities and participation in decision-making process. They therefore want to urge the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs to provide clear guidelines that enhance their role in the decision-making process. 2, low recognition and compensation. Again, Mr. Speaker, the unit committee members state that there is noticeable low, if not absent, recognition and compensation for them. According to them, this lack of acknowledgement demotivates them and undermines their commitment. They propose that a structured compensation framework be put in place to reward and motivate them for their time and efforts. 3, neglect by central government. Mr. Speaker, there is growing concern among unit committee members for neglect by the central government. According to them, this neglect is made manifest in limited communication, inadequate funding, and a lack of involvement in policy formulation that affects local governance. As a result, Mr. Speaker, they seek amendment in the Act to promote inclusiveness and participation in decision-making process and more engagement with the central government regarding local issues. 4, capacity building and training needs. Mr. Speaker, the unit committee members reckon that there is an urgent need for capacity building through training programs tailored specifically for committee members. Such training should be tailored to enhance their skills in governance, project management, conflict resolution, and community mobilization. 5, misunderstanding with zonal councils. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the unit committee members complained of rising misunderstanding with zonal councils, which disrupts collaboration and effective planning for community development. They recommend the establishment of regular dialogue sessions to foster understanding and cooperation. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, addressing these challenges will go a long way to strengthening the effectiveness of unit committee in local government and ultimately lead to improving the local governance system and community development. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Very well. Honourable members, let me at this juncture also invite Honourable Dominic Napari, MP for Sene East Constituency, to read his statement, which is of the same content. So, Honourable, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make a statement on local level participation in local governance in the district assemblies in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, decentralization and local governance, which is considered an important element of participatory democracy over the past 3 decades, has seen increasing devolution of political and economic power to local government. Decentralization can be said to be a process of bringing public sector decisions closer to the people in order to empower local communities to actively participate in the prioritization, implementation, and monitoring of government development programs to the benefit of these communities. Mr. Speaker, this process should encourage more accountable and responsive governance to improve public service delivery efficiency at the local level and bring government closer to the governed. Mr. Speaker, it is in the light of the above that the 1992 Republican Constitution makes decentralization mandatory and provides that this country, Ghana, put in place a system of local government and administration which shall, as far as practicable, be decentralized, Article 241. In furtherance of that, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution tasks Parliament to enact appropriate laws to ensure that functions, powers, responsibilities, and resources are at all times transferred from the central government to local government authorities in a coordinated manner. Parliament operationalized this by the passage of the Local Government Act 1993 Act 462, which was later replaced by the Local Governance Act 1993 Act 462, which has later replaced 936 with the aim of enhancing local participation and to coordinating all local government laws into one legislation. Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to note that until the promulgation of the new Local Governance Act 2016, Act 936, the previous Local Government Act, Act 462, did not have any elaborate provision on participatory governance for citizens' engagement with the district assemblies. This gives rise to the absolute need for serious sensitization of the public and also local government practitioners on participatory governance at local level under the new Act. This, I believe, will enable us to achieve the promotion of popular participation in local level decision-making. Mr. Speaker, the crux of the matter is that if decentralization and local governance is for participation and ownership by the local level stakeholders, to what extent do these stakeholders, who have stakes and roles to play, as enshrined in the Local Governance Act 2016, are aware of and play these roles and responsibilities? Mr. Speaker, the Act in sections 40 to 48 has given elaborate and extensive opportunity and guidelines to local level stakeholders to effectively participate and provide oversight to ensure efficient service delivery. But unfortunately, this is not the case to a large extent. The Act 936 under section 234 defines district level stakeholders to include chiefs, traditional authorities, opinion leaders, community leaders, and civil society organizations. And civil society organizations is defined in the same section to include community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, that's religious bodies, non-governmental organizations, professional bodies, vocational associations, or similar organizations. Mr. Speaker, the above is fortified in the constitutional indication for rulers to be identified for ordinary people in local government in Ghana as given in Chapter 20, Article 242 of the Constitution, where it says as follows: to ensure the accountability of local government authorities, people, in particular local government areas, shall, as far as practicable, be afforded opportunity to participate effectively in their governance. In operationalizing this, the Local Governance Act provides for the assembly member to consult with their electorate before and after meetings of the assembly. The question is, how far is this carried through? Again, Mr. Speaker, the provisions of participatory revocation of the mandate of an assembly member who has lost the confidence of his people, those on decentralized participatory planning and budgeting, and the section that requires that chiefs and traditional authorities must be consulted in the process of the president's appointing the 30% to district assemblies, give effect to participatory local governance at the assemblies. Mr. Speaker, Section 41 and 42 of the Act provides the procedure to enable a resident and other local level stakeholders to participate in activities of the district assembly and its substructures and identify the modalities and platforms for participation. In particular, the two sessions provide for the participation of local people in the enactment of bylaws and draft fee-fixing resolutions by the district assembly. Mr. Speaker, citizens' participation in the preparation of District Assembly's bylaws and fee-fixing resolutions is very hall meetings, notice board announcement on jobs, appointments, procurement awards, and other important announcements of public interest. Section 43 and 44 of the Act provides for the general public to make petitions to the District Assembly on issues of concern. Section 44 makes it mandatory for a District Assembly to respond to petitions by citizens. All these are measures put in place to address issues of stakeholder involvement and participation. This is so important that the Act compels the District Chief Executive of every assembly to report on stakeholder participation in activities of the District Assembly as stated in Section 45 of the Act. This will ensure that District Assemblies make conscious effort to involve the local people. Mr. Speaker, it is curious to note that even before the passage of the Right to Information Act 2019, Act 989, Section 47 of the Local Governance Act 2016, Act 936, had provided the public access to information from district assemblies. It provides that every resident in a district assembly shall have access on request to information held by the district assembly or a department of the assembly, subject to limitations imposed by law. It is strange, Mr. Speaker, that this provision was not being employed by the media and the general public, but we're only waiting for the passage of the Right to Information Act. Perhaps this justifies my earlier call for a serious sensitization of the public on the provisions of the new Local Governance Act 2016. Mr. Speaker, the requirement of the assemblies to observe the principles of inclusion and integration of minorities and marginal groups in society is so important that the Act, in Section 48, has compelled district assemblies to observe the following principles. A, protection of marginalized groups from discrimination of any kind, including discrimination based on language, religion, culture, national or social origin, gender, birth, descent, or other status. B, equality of treatment in each area of economic, educational, social, religious, political, and cultural life of the marginalized and minority groups. C, special protection to vulnerable persons who may be subject to threats or acts of discrimination, hostility, violence, and abuse as a result of their ethnic, cultural, religious, and other identity. D, special measures of affirmative action for marginalized and minority groups to ensure their enjoyment of equal rights with the rest of the population. E, respect for and promotion of the identity and characteristics of minorities. F, promotion of diversity and intercultural education. And G, promotion of effective participation of marginalized groups in public and political life. Mr. Speaker, if district assemblies were to implement these principles to the letter by instituting programs of pro-women and pro-marginalized affirmative actions, and the issue of abysmally low participation of women in governance, particularly local governance, would have been improved. Mr. Speaker, as a way forward, the relationship between the local government and the governed should be strengthened to reverse this situation of mistrust and disillusionment, and that both the local people and the district assemblies need to work together to rebuild and strengthen this relationship. By this, the citizens need to be more active and engaged, while the assemblies be more responsive and effective. The provisions must be operationalized and practicalized for popular participation to become a reality.
Dominic, can you summarize it a bit?
I'm almost done, Mr. Speaker.
6 pages. It's
I'm
too
almost
much.
done, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I also think that we need to rethink participation in political process towards an engagement that is more deliberative and which can be understood as a right in itself to call for certain preconditions to be created, targeting the fulfillment of local needs. Again, I wish to suggest that the Ministry of Local Government and by extension the district assemblies engage in elaborate sensitization on the provisions of the Local Governance Act, particularly on sections 40 to 48. The non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations and the media who are into advocacy of local governance, even though they are themselves stakeholders, should also champion the advocacy on participatory governance. Finally, Mr. Speaker, in order that the district assemblies will be more responsive to issues of stakeholder participation and report appropriately, as contained in Section 45 of the Act, I suggest that the local government ministry include participatory governance at the local level as a qualifying criteria for the district performance assessment tool, DPAT, emphasizing on their responsiveness to issues of inclusiveness and integration of minorities and the marginalized group. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, I think we've made this admonition in the House before. We normally have so many statements. So if you are bringing your statement, please make it a bit brief, not more than 2 pages, so that we can accommodate more statements. Dominic, yours is 6 pages. It's too much. Please, let's take it. So the whips, I think this morning we discussed it at the president. The whips, please ensure that the statement received from members are at least not more than 2 pages, so that we can accommodate more. Yes. Let me start from here. I'll come back to you. Yes. Honorable
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to the statement. 2 statements on the floor. Mr. Speaker, let me commend the 2 honorable members who made the statement. Actually, when you look at the organogram of the local government structure in this country, Mr. Speaker, you will realize that the unit committee members are the units which is at the down 10 of the, Mr. Speaker, the organogram. Mr. Speaker, you start from the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. You come to the Regional Coordinating Council, being led by the regional ministers, the Metropolitan, Municipal, and District Assemblies, being led by the chief executives. Now you come to the assembly members, the zonal council, and finally, the unit committee members. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the organogram, the unit committee members are the people who are not motivated in any way by the structure, by the organogram, which I think that we need to do more about this. They work assiduously at the various units that they find themselves. But meanwhile, they are not being motivated. And even adding to the assembly members, how can an assembly member travel about 30 kilometers to the district capital, have a meeting, and be given 150 Ghana cedis as sitting allowance without even TNT? Some of you don't get it at all. So, Speaker, it's something we have to look into it. And they are working for the country. And therefore, we need to do so much about it. Mr. Speaker, I will urge the chief executives to make sure that they increase their IGF at wherever level they find themselves, municipal, district, metropolitan, so that they can use some of these funds to motivate them so that they can work and work well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let me come to Honourable Member for Damango.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this statement ably made by my colleague, the Honourable Faustina Eliklem Akurugu, on deepening local governance in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important subject, and indeed, it is just as well that the Honourable Member has brought it on the floor of Parliament, since the President is just about announcing and appointing metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives. Mr. Speaker, one of the biggest problems we have as a country, one of the major problems we have as a country, which has become a stumbling block to our development, is that, Mr. Speaker, we say we practice decentralization, but when you look at it critically, and we are not deepening local governance in our country. So, Speaker, I'll begin with the first example. The first example being Common Fund. The administration of Common Fund, as it was originally conceived, Mr. Speaker, was to have a common fund, which will be the fund where we will tap into to resource district assemblies, resource electoral areas, resource unit areas, so that the development will take place at the district assemblies. Mr. Speaker, but we all know that across the political divide, governments after government, the common fund, which is supposed to be decentralized, which is supposed to be disbursed to the local government structures, is mostly centralized, where procurements are done at the center, and then payments are done directly from the common fund, and the assemblies are given the procured items, whether or not they need them. Nobody asks any question. Mr. Speaker, if you go to my constituency of Damango, the needs of my constituency of Damango, Mr. Speaker, will be different from the needs of the constituency of, say, Zibila or somewhere, or Famina, indeed. Mr. Speaker, which is why, if you allow me, the story is told of an NGO which built a borehole in the center of a village and believed that they had built a borehole to alleviate the sufferings of the women, so that the women will not trek long distances to fetch water, only for the women to abandon the borehole and continue to go down the stream to fetch the water. And when the investigation was done, that was the only time they also got the opportunity to escape from homes, to chat, to gossip about their husbands, and so on and so forth. And therefore, to tell them to fetch the water from the center of the village was problematic for them. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we have to have tailor-made development. Mr. Speaker, when you go to the United Kingdom, there's a department called the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA. It's a very important, powerful department in the United Kingdom, which is responsible for rural development and rural affairs. Mr. Speaker, you are familiar with council homes. That is how many people came to own homes in the United Kingdom, council homes. These are all decentralized structures. And also the question of getting our local government structures to be able to generate their own revenue and generate their own resources. And then the issue of capping. When the assemblies engage in internally generated funds, then we have capping formulas and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a very important subject. I'm not too sure we can do justice to this particular subject on one occasion. But I want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, to say that at the very least, let us make the effort to decentralize healthcare, decentralize education, decentralize agriculture. I dare say, Mr. Speaker, even roads, in terms of not so much, in terms of not the expenditure, but in terms of the prioritization of the roads. The assemblies must
and maintenance.
The maintenance as well. The assemblies must be in the position, they should be given the authority to determine which roads are their priorities. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, rural economy. The major problem we have in our country is rural economy. And almost every town or village of significance or substance in our country has a market. It tells you how driven, how entrepreneurial our people are. And so, Mr. Speaker, we are hoping that the new Minister for Local Government, the Minister for Health, the Minister for Education, the Minister for Agriculture, the Minister for Roads, and the Minister for Finance, of course, will put in place the formula and put in place the right policies to ensure that we deepen local governance in our country and ensure that we take development to the grassroots of our people. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Let me go to Honorable Sanja Nanja.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to these two statements that are ably made by other members. Mr. Speaker, citizen participation in general is a good way of making government, public sector policies, laws, and regulations acceptable to the citizens. It also makes the public sector services effective and efficient. But, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the main objective of Ghana's decentralization was to enhance citizen participation in governance. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, it is either the local authorities are not affording the citizens the opportunity to participate, or the citizens themselves are not just interested in participation. And this is manifested in the district level elections. As compared to the general election, the voter turnout for district level elections has always been very, very low. In some instances, we get up to as low as 30% voter turnout. Mr. Speaker, the rate of voter turnout in an election gives credence to the subject under consideration. Mr. Speaker, the citizen elections, for instance, sometimes apart from the assembly members, the 5 members, unit committee members, some electoral areas are not even able to fill 5 members for the elections because people are not interested in it. And the lower structures also are not given the capacity to function. The lower structures, the substructure, percentages are not ceded to them. And how do we expect them to function? During field fixing resolution, for instance, you invite citizens to come and participate. And the number of people you get leaves much to be desired. People don't come. They are not just interested. And the assemblies, the local authorities local authorities also take advantage of the non-interest of the citizens and do their own thing. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we have to sensitize the people. We have to do more publicity, especially during the elections time, the district level elections. The publicity is normally very low. On this note, Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you for the opportunity to comment on the statement.
Yes. Let me now go to Honorable Member. Now that I've gotten to know your intention, I wouldn't call you. You wouldn't catch my eye. Yes, Honorable Member for Afwano. Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to what the makers of the statement have said. Mr. Speaker, to ensure effective local governance and decentralization in Ghana, I think we should look at how to resource the actors of local governance in Ghana in discharge of their duties, be it the executive, the legislative, and deliberative functions of the various assemblies. Mr. Speaker, let me zero into the consultations of honorable assembly members before and after assembly meetings. And Mr. Speaker, honorable members of the various...
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think the seats there are for leadership.
Who?
The seats, the front seats, they're for leadership. And therefore, I don't know why they keep sitting there. We have a convention in the House.
What convention?
If they have changed leadership, they should tell us.
What convention?
That we shouldn't come and sit at the leadership seat, within the leadership seat.
Were you in the House yesterday?
Yes. Mr. Speaker,
were you in the House yesterday?
Mr. Speaker, I suffered the same thing. I suffered the same thing.
Honorable member, the mere fact you suffered...
Mr. Speaker, the same seat made me to leave the seat I was occupying into my seat.
Thank you. Thank you. But as we speak, there's nobody on the front seat. All the people sitting are leaders. But, honorable member, yesterday I think we delved into this. Your issue came up, and the first deputy speaker ruled. But yesterday, I think we expatiated further that the front seat are reserved for leaders. Members can come and occupy when there's nobody. So we normally term them as available leaders. But please, allow me to explain. But when there's a leader, it doesn't mean that nobody can come and discuss a matter with the leader. So I saw Honorable Adelaide coming to the front seat. He came to confer. He came to either take information, and that one is allowed. But coming to sit there permanently, that is what we can raise an issue. I think yesterday we dealt into this matter. So, Honorable Afo, your issue has been dealt with, and I think we don't need to revisit this issue again. Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, and thank you for the explanation. Yesterday, I heard the first deputy speaker rule on this matter. But I know how he was treated was unfair to him. That's why Honorable Nyindam yesterday raised the issue again for better explanation. Because like you said, leaders may occupy the front bench, but a member may walk in to have a discussion with them. But the minority side raised the issue, and the first deputy speaker sacked the honorable member from the front bench. It wasn't a present situation. That's why he's still in pain, and then he wants to bring the matter up. So I think this explanation will settle him, and then going forward, let members understand that they can still walk to the front bench, have their discussion, and walk back to their seat. So this is the explanation we wanted to get, so that when there's a clarity, members will feel free, and then they can also reach out to the leaders. But leaders are here to work for the backbench. So if there's a denier, then we are not here to serve them.
Perfectly right. So
thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you so much, and let me thank my leader too. Mr. Speaker, on that note, then I will need apology from the front bench.
Oh, why?
From the unqualified apology from the their
Honorable Afo, this
Mr.
thing
Speaker,
is over. You
they
see,
should render unqualified apology
no.
for what they did to me the last time.
Me personally, I wasn't happy personally about what was done to you, but it's over. Please, we learn from these things as we move on. So please, it's over. We don't need to demand or request for an apology. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I understand very much my friend's pain, but Mr. Speaker, you also agree with me that it was a comment that was made by my chief whip, and the Speaker then made the decision. The Speaker was the one who made the decision.
Yes.
It was not my chief whip. And I still understand his pain and why he wants to retaliate. But we are brothers. Don't retaliate, please. Let's move forward. It's for God and country. I love you and you love me. Let's move on. Thank you very much for loving me.
Thank you, honorable members. Yes, Honorable Ajimai.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was saying, that to ensure an effective local government and decentralization system in the country, the nation ought to look at how to finance the key actors of local government and decentralization in Ghana, especially the unit committee members and honorable assembly members. Mr. Speaker, I want to zero in to the maker's statement on the consultation before and after assembly meeting by the honorable assembly members. Mr. Speaker, successive governments have been providing motorbikes for honorable assembly members to go around their normal duties. But, Mr. Speaker, sometimes the motorbikes will come at a time when honorable assembly members will be exiting, and that do not help. For instance, an assembly member of Mabai in Ahafua North, how does he go around to visit his people at Kobeda and Kwafukrom before he goes to the assembly meeting to deliberate on the issues concerning their plight? So I will want to take this opportunity to appeal to the honorable local government minister and the local government ministry itself to make sure they expedite action on providing motorbikes to the honorable assembly members. And I believe that will help. Then looking at the relationship and other things between the traditional authorities and the unit committee members. I'm happy today the Ministry of Chieftaincy has been merged with Ministry of Local Government. So the minister should take note of that and then take action on that. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the last election, that's the 2024 election, both political parties, the major political parties, the NDC and MPP, in their manifestos, promise honorable assembly members that when they come, they will see how the ministry can allocate some funds to honorable assembly members to aid in their work. Today, the NDC is in power. So I want to appeal to the NDC government to make sure they look at the regular distribution of common fund and how some portion will be given to the honorable assembly members to aid in their work as promised in the manifesto. With this, I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I understand you are the president of the assembly members, eh?
Former president of NALAC.
NALAC?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I can now understand why you are speaking for them. Yes, let me go to Honorable Andrew Sola.
Finally, Right Honourable Speaker, I appreciate you for the opportunity to comment on the statements delivered by these two honourable members. The honourable lady, I happen to be residing in her constituency. I thank her for accommodating me in her constituency. Mr. Speaker, the district assembly concept is a very good concept. It's a concept that is supposed to bring development to the rural people. Mr. Speaker, I have often told my assembly members that if we have a very strong assembly system, the work of the member of parliament will be very limited because the assembly members and the unit committee members, for that matter, they live with the people day in, day out. And so they know the people better than the members of parliament. And they know the needs of the people better than the members of parliament. Like the Honorable Elekplim said, what I think we have to do to empower them is to resource them. We, those who come from the rural areas, can testify to the importance of the unit committee members. In my constituency, for instance, we have electoral areas that are very scattered. There are some of the electoral areas that have as many as 20 communities making up the electoral area. And so making it very difficult for the assembly member alone to function. And so that is why we think that the unit committee members should be seen as very important persons when it comes to helping send development to the people, helping carry information to the people, and helping solve the needs of the people. And so, Mr. Speaker, she indicated the need to empower them by way of training or developing their skills. It is very necessary for us to do that because in some of the communities, they serve as the teachers. In some communities, they serve as the medical officers. They serve as everything. And so if they are empowered financially and technically, they will play their role to the expectation of the community members who elected them. My colleague, Honorable Sanja, in contributing, indicated the low patronage of the unit committee level. It's a fact because they don't have any benefit. They spend money to get the forms completed. They spend money to go around to campaign. On election days, Mr. Speaker, you'll be surprised to hear that you would have to transport people to voting centers. And unit committee members and assembly members have to do that from their pocket. Meanwhile, they do not have any allowance. And so it only takes a person that is dedicated and committed to the service of his community or her community to volunteer to contest as an assembly member or a unit committee member. So, Mr. Speaker, calling for resource is important. Mr. Speaker, I know there's no time. Let me conclude by touching small on Honorable Napari's statement. It is a fact that constitutionally we are supposed to consider stakeholders in the formation of the District Assembly, especially when it comes to the appointments by the President. We need to consider carefully the people we select on the government appointment. I mean the President appointment. We need to get the people who have the skills. We don't just have to pick party members, but people who have the know-how, traditional leaders, NGOs, faith-based organizations, in fact, people with the expertise to serve as government appointees, so that at the end of the day, we would carry home the development that government wants to send to the people. I thank you once again, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, but with the presence of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, he promised assembly members, I know he's going to deliver on his promise. We are going to send development to the doorsteps of the people. We are not going to award contracts from Accra. We are not going to award just road grading.
Honorable, thank you. Thank you so much.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Yes, let me go to Akim Odan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity for me to make a comment on the two statements that have to do with local governance in Ghana. Indeed, the member for Dominic Kwabenya would have to put herself together and form an association of MPs who reside in her constituency. Because I just heard the honorable member saying she lives there. And we have quite a couple of people who also live in Domikwabenya, so that at least we can have development coming in our area. So, Speaker, I'm excited to take a bite on this all-important topic, local governance. So, Speaker upon Speaker, Speaker after Speaker, to this statement have all talked about the fact that we need to empower our local governance system. If you look at the structure of our local governance, it is only the assembly member and the MMDCs that you see. You don't have the unit committee and the other structures performing, and it's because they don't have empowerment. How do we talk about empowerment without looking at financial capacity or a system that would allow them to have access to finance? I want to crave your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, to share an experience. In my constituency, the usage of common fund was a major campaign issue during our primaries. And so I promised my constituents that in order for them to have full access to the use of common fund, I was going to disburse the common fund to the 18 electoral areas in my constituency. When I got elected, every common fund that is released, yes, it was disbursed to the 18 electoral areas. We had the various electoral areas led by our assembly members opening electoral area accounts. And these monies were disbursed from the district assembly directly into that account. It made it easier for me to account for the common fund for every quarter. Even though I do not have any major project standing in my name, for every electoral area you go, there is something that they can point to that attests to the fact that this is what the MP's common fund has been used for. I think it becomes easier for you to account for the common fund because it's one major area that as a member of parliament, if you are not careful, they will definitely use it to campaign against you. No, I'm not concluding. You have to learn from my experience. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is the reason during the campaign of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, he promised that portions of the common fund were going to go to the electoral area. We did not vote for him. But once the NDC promised that they were going to pay assembly members, we are quietly waiting for that promise, because if assembly members are going to be paid, it would entice people to come and volunteer to become assembly members and to be voted for. After you have paid them, let's ensure that we have resources that will go directly into the electoral area, because we know the assembly common fund, when it goes to the district assemblies, they get into major projects and the electoral areas do not benefit. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yes. No, let me go to the first timer. Yes, my brother. From where?
Asutifi North constituency.
Asutifi
North.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to comment on the two statements. However, my interest is rather going to be on the statement by our colleague, Member of Parliament for Domikwabenya, with the plight of unit committee members. Having been an assembly member and a presiding member before, I have a personal encounter with them. And I think it's right that as members of parliament, we look at how our unit committee members are treated. In fact, the district elections is designed to bring democracy and governance to the doorstep of Ghanaians. And if you look at the structure of our local government, the Constitution and the Local Governance Act provide the framework for such structures to exist between the Assembly and the Unit Committee. These substructures are composed mainly of the unit committees and the elected assembly members. We have the town councils, the zonal councils, and the area councils. If you go to the area councils, they are composed of elected assembly members within that area, and then not more than 10 unit committee members. That is, the composition is 15. So you realize the unit committee members have majority numbers in terms of the composition of these area councils. However, at the end of the tenure of these unit committee and assembly members, it is only the assembly members that provisions have been made for them to determine their emolument. But these unit committee members are the focal point for local engagement. If you look at the functions of the unit committee, Mr. Speaker, you realize they are to assist the area or urban councils to enumerate and keep records of all rateable persons and properties. And it is as a result of this that the Assembly can generate IGF. But in the disbursement or the usage of this IGF, the unit committee members don't even see how they are used. So I think it is at the right time that we look at how these unit committee members are treated, especially when their tenure of office is getting near. The assembly members are given motorbikes, but the unit committee members don't even have a bicycle to even go to the various areas.
Thank you.
And so I think the local governance minister should look at this and consult in getting some of these concerns addressed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Should I come to leadership? Yes. But honourable members, be brief.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, do I have the floor? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this two noble statements made by our colleagues. Mr. Speaker, we listening to our colleagues and the makers of these two statements, Mr. Speaker, it all boils down to inadequate funding for our assemblies, the MMDAs. Mr. Speaker, we pretend to be releasing common fund to the assemblies, and the assemblies too are pretending to be working. Mr. Speaker, all of us know the cost, the cost of 3-unit classroom block. Mr. Speaker, how much do we send to the assemblies from the common fund secretariat? So all I want to say is that we are pretending to be supporting or making payments to the assemblies by way of common fund. All the contributors and the makers of the statement, the challenges of the assemblies are that they are not adequately resourced. So they cannot actually bring the governance that we want to the doorsteps of the people. So we have to look at the funding. How do we fund the assemblies? I'm talking as a former district chief executive, Mr. Speaker. There were times you sit in the assembly for 3 months, you can't even get money to buy fuel to run the DCE vehicle, let alone to send your staff to go for monitoring. Mr. Speaker, we approved this Assembly's common fund formula in this House. Monies that are supposed to send to the assemblies are not sent. We sit at the common fund secretariat, procure equipment, procure logistics to the assemblies when the assemblies do not even need this equipment. Mr. Speaker, let's also look at the IGF the law that should enable the assemblies to generate IGF, that law is moribund. Mr. Speaker, poll tax. Poll tax, if you go to collect poll tax, Mr. Speaker, at the end of the day, the cost of collection is higher than what you are going to collect. So we need to look at the laws too, so that we can empower the assembly. Let's fortify the assemblies so that they can generate, more IGF. Mr. Speaker, political interference is one of the challenges that face most of our assemblies. As a district chief executive, Mr. Speaker, you are protecting your seat. So you dare not even go to say that people should pay property rate, people should do ABCD for you to generate enough money for the assembly, because your party will come after you. Your party chairman will not understand why you are asking them to pay property rate. Mr. Speaker, so we need a holistic discussion on this matter. Very good statement. Let's just don't talk about it and throw it to the dogs. Mr. Speaker, refer this statement to the local government committee so that we can discuss it and make serious recommendations. Particularly the Common Fund Secretariat, they should stop deducting monies that are meant for the assemblies. We should not. If we continuously doing that, we will be pretending to be working, we'll be pretending to be at least sending governance to the people. Meanwhile, we are doing nothing. Mr. Speaker, how on earth can you send 400,000 to the assembly when you know the cost of a unit classroom, 3-unit classroom block? Mr. Speaker, when I was DCE, we were guided that anytime common fund is released, we should be embarking on at least projects, physical projects, construction of chief's compound, construction of 3-unit classroom blocks. So anytime payments were made, they want to see the DCE making payment or allocation for the construction of physical projects. Now, if you want, go and check the assemblies. The monies that are being sent to them, Mr. Speaker, they just use it for the day-to-day running of the assemblies. No assembly can physically show that this is what they've used their common fund for over the period. So, Mr. Speaker, we cannot be pretending to be developing our people.